When my abusive ex violated a restraining order and tried to kill me in public, he had no idea a powerful billionaire was about to step in and permanently change all of our lives. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near us. The restraining order said 500 feet. 500 safe, protected feet between me and the man who once swore he loved me. And yet, the moment we stepped past the food court at Westfield Mall, I felt it. That cold shift in the air that every survivor knows too well. "Mama, pretzel after sneakers?" Nakia asked, swinging our joined hands. "Yes, baby. Sneakers first." I smiled. That was when I saw him, DeAndre, pushing through the crowd like he owned the space, like rules didn't apply to him, like I still belonged to him. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. Not here. Not in front of her. I tightened my grip on Nakia's hand and tried to turn us around, walking faster, pretending I hadn't seen him. Maybe he hadn't seen us yet. Maybe we could disappear into the crowd. "Adrian." His voice cut through the noise like glass shattering. People kept walking. Shopping bags. Laughter. Music from the stores. Life moving normally while mine was about to stop. He caught up in seconds. His hand grabbed my arm and spun me around so hard I almost fell. I could smell the alcohol before he even spoke. "You think you can just take my daughter and walk away from me?" he hissed. "Not here, DeAndre. Please. Not in front of her." But he wasn't listening. His fingers wrapped around my throat. Tight. The world narrowed instantly. My purse hit the floor. My lungs fought for air that wouldn't come. I clawed at his wrist, but he was stronger. Always stronger. Nakia screamed, "Daddy, stop. Daddy, please." She dropped to her knees right there on the mall floor. My 6-year-old baby, hands pressed together like she was praying. "Please don't hurt Mommy. Please." He didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed locked on mine, filled with rage, and something worse, satisfaction. "You're nothing without me," he whispered. The edges of my vision started to blur. Was this how it would end? In public, surrounded by strangers, while my daughter begged for my life. People were shouting now, but no one moved. No one stepped in. Then I saw him, about 15 feet away, tall, still, dressed in a dark, perfectly tailored suit. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't filming. He wasn't panicking. He was watching, and his expression wasn't shock. It was decision. Slowly, almost deliberately, he lifted his hands and began removing his rings, one by one. My vision was fading, but I saw him start walking toward us. And in that moment, something shifted. Because sometimes, when the world stands still and watches you suffer, one person decides not to. Evil survives in silence, until someone refuses to be silent. That he did not shout. He did not run. He simply stepped forward. Through the noise. Through the crowd. Through the fear that had frozen everyone else in place. I was losing air. My fingers were weak against DeAndre's wrist. Nakia's cries were fading into a distant echo. And then pressure shifted. A firm hand clamped down on DeAndre's wrist. Not wild. Not desperate. Precise. In one smooth motion, the stranger twisted his arm just enough to force his grip open. I collapsed forward, gasping, air burning into my lungs as if I were breathing fire. DeAndre barely had time to react. The man in the tailored suit moved once. A single, controlled punch. Clean. Direct. The sound echoed louder than Nakia's scream. DeAndre hit the marble floor instantly. No struggle. No second attempt. Just shock written across his face as blood touched his lip and his pride shattered in front of strangers. The mall went silent. The stranger adjusted his cuff as if he had merely straightened a picture frame. "Are you all right?" he asked me, voice steady, eyes scanning my neck for bruising. I nodded, still coughing. "Who is this man?" Security guards came running, finally awake. Someone called the police. People began whispering, recording, stepping closer now that the danger was over. DeAndre tried to push himself up, mumbling threats, but the stranger placed his polished shoe firmly against his shoulder. Not violently, just enough to keep him down. "You violated a court order," he said calmly. And you assaulted her in public. There was no anger in his voice, only certainty. Police officers arrived within minutes, but their reaction surprised me. They didn't question him aggressively. They didn't challenge him. One of them nodded respectfully. "Mr. Laurent," the officer said. "We'll take it from here." Mr. Laurent. The name rippled through the air. I had seen it before. On buildings. On hospital wings. On scholarship foundations.
Adrien Laurent, billionaire investor.
Philanthropist. A man whose companies employed thousands. A man known for building things, not breaking them. And yet here he stood, composed and unshaken, as if protecting a stranger was simply another item on his schedule. He looked at me again, softer this time. "No one touches a woman who has already asked for protection," he said quietly. The police lifted DeAndre from the floor, handcuffs clicking around his wrists. For the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. As they led him away, Mr. Laurent bent down to Nikia's level. "You were very brave," he told her gently. She nodded, still trembling, but she held my hand tighter, and I realized something powerful in that moment. Strength is not loud. It does not need to threaten. It simply steps forward when others step back. Real power is calm, and it always stands between danger and the defenseless. The mall was finally quiet. Police tape, flashing lights, whispering strangers. Nikia stayed close to me, her small hand wrapped tightly around mine. The stranger who had saved us stood a few steps away, speaking calmly with the officers. He looked completely in control, as if chaos had never touched him. When everything settled, he turned toward us. "Are you both safe to leave?" he asked gently. I nodded, still shaken. He walked with us toward the exit, his presence creating a protective space around us without saying another word. Outside, the evening air felt different, colder, but clearer. That was when my phone began to vibrate. It was my sister, Janelle. "Adrian, where are you? Mama just called me." "What happened?" I explained in broken sentences. The restraining order, the attack, the stranger who stepped in. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Janelle said carefully, "Adrian, do you know who that man is?" "No," I admitted. She paused before answering. "His name is Young Chulyu." The name sounded unfamiliar in my mouth, but the way she said it made my stomach tighten. "He owns a chain of luxury hotels," she continued, "in multiple states. He's a billionaire, and people say he has connections. Serious ones." "What kind of connections?" I asked softly. "Powerful ones. The kind you don't see. The kind that move quietly." Her voice lowered. "Men like him don't live in our world, Adrian. They operate in another one. Another world." I looked up toward him. He was speaking to his security team now, calm, efficient, giving instructions in a low voice. Not loud, not dramatic, just certain. My gratitude slowly began to shift into something else. Curiosity and fear. "Did he look dangerous?" Janelle asked. I thought about it. He hadn't seemed angry. He hadn't looked reckless. But there was something about him, something controlled and deeply rooted. The kind of strength that didn't need to prove itself.
No, he whispered.
He looked focused. Janelle exhaled. "That's what worries me." After I hung up, my mother called next. Then my uncle, who used to work in law enforcement. They all said the same thing. "Be careful. Stay alert. Men with that level of power are unpredictable." But as I stood there, watching young Chul gently crouch down to speak to Nikia, making sure she was okay, listening to her small voice with patience, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safety. Yet my heart was divided. He had saved me. But why? And what did it mean when a man with that much influence decided to step into your life? Gratitude warmed me, but beneath it, a quiet warning whispered inside. Power can protect, or it can control. And I was just beginning to understand the difference. Not all fear comes from danger. Sometimes it comes from not knowing how much power stands beside you. The next morning felt unreal. I kept waiting for my phone to ring with bad news. A call saying DeAndre had been released, or that the restraining order meant nothing after all. Every sound made my heart jump. But instead, the call came from the prosecutor's office. "Ms. Adrian," the voice said professionally, "we've reviewed the additional evidence. The mall security footage has been formally submitted, along with medical documentation and witness statements. Based on the severity of the assault, bail has been denied." For a moment I couldn't speak. Denied. He was staying in custody. "Does this change anything for the victim?" I asked quietly. "It strengthens the case," the prosecutor replied, "and it significantly increases the likelihood of a longer sentence." When I hung up, my knees felt weak. Relief washed over me so suddenly that I had to sit down. Was this really happening? Later that afternoon, my office phone rang again. It was not the hospital, not the police. It was young Chul's assistant. "Mister, you wanted to confirm that you and your daughter are safe," the calm voice said. He also asked if there has been any further contact.
No, Ian Suarat.
Nothing. Good. He will continue monitoring the situation. Monitoring. The word sounded simple, but it carried weight. That evening, another message arrived, this time from an unknown number. It was brief. "Legal pressure has been increased. No further interference will be tolerated." That was all.
No signature. No explanation.
When I told my sister, she looked at me carefully. "Adrian, this doesn't feel like normal help." "I know," I admitted. But for the first time, the help felt steady instead of overwhelming. Young Chul didn't call me constantly. He didn't demand updates. He didn't ask for praise. He simply acted. Behind the scenes. Quietly. Effectively. The next morning, I learned that additional statements had been filed. The mall incident footage had been prioritized. The judge had reviewed everything sooner than expected. Someone had ensured the case would not be delayed. Someone had made sure it mattered. When I thought about it, my chest tightened. He didn't just step in during the crisis. He stayed. And he was using influence, not for attention, not for recognition, but to make sure the system worked in my favor. No one has ever fought this hard for me before. That realization felt both comforting and overwhelming. I wasn't used to someone standing in the background, removing obstacles without asking for anything in return. It made me feel protected. But it also reminded me how powerful he truly was. Because protection like this doesn't happen by accident. It happens when someone decides you are worth the effort. And for the first time since the attack, I understood something deeply. The danger wasn't just what happened in public. The real safety was knowing someone was making sure it couldn't happen again. True protection isn't loud. It works silently until danger disappears. The invitation came quietly. No pressure. No demands. Just a simple message from young Chul. "Dinner on Saturday. Bring Nikia." When Saturday arrived, he picked us up himself. Not in a dramatic way.
No sirens.
No crowd. Just a calm arrival. As if it were the most normal thing in the world. Nikia was excited the moment she saw him. "Uncle Bang!" she called out, running toward him. He crouched immediately, lowering himself to her height. Something many adults forget to do. "Hello," he said gently. "Did you have a good week?" She nodded enthusiastically, telling him about school, her drawings, and the sneakers we had finally bought. As we drove to the restaurant, I noticed something different about him. He wasn't distant tonight. He wasn't the silent protector standing in the background. He was present. At the restaurant, he chose a table near the window, making sure Nikia could see outside. When the food arrived, he patiently explained each dish to her, asking what she wanted to try first. He didn't rush her. He didn't check his phone. He listened. When she struggled with chopsticks, he showed her slowly, encouraging her without ever taking over. "You're doing very well," he told her with a warm smile. She glowed under his attention. Watching them together softened something inside me. I haven't seen her this relaxed in months. After dinner, he surprised us with tickets to a nearby children's museum. Nikia's eyes lit up when she saw the dinosaur exhibit. "Can we go in?" she asked eagerly. "Of course," he replied. "I'll be right here." Inside the museum, he walked beside her carefully, letting her lead. When she pointed at a giant dinosaur skeleton, he knelt down again to look at it from her perspective. "That one is a Tyrannosaurus," he explained simply. "It was very strong. But even strong things can disappear if they aren't careful." I noticed the way his voice changed when he said that. It became quieter, more reflective. Later, while Nakia explored a fossil dig area, he and I stood near the glass wall overlooking the exhibit. "She's happy," he said softly. "She is," I agreed. He hesitated for a moment, then spoke again. "I understand why this matters to you." "Why?" I asked gently. He took a slow breath. "I had a wife," he said, "and a daughter." The air between us felt heavier. "They died in a car accident," he continued. "A drunk driver ran a red light. I wasn't there. I was at a meeting." His expression didn't break, but something in his eyes shifted. "I thought success was everything," he added, "until I lost everything that truly mattered." My heart ached for him. I had known loss in fear, but his loss was permanent. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. He nodded once. After that day, I decided that if I ever had the power to protect someone, I wouldn't hesitate again. So that's why he fights so hard. Nakia ran back toward us, holding a small plastic dinosaur. And in that moment, I understood something deeply. Healing doesn't happen in silence. It happens when someone chooses to stand beside you while you rebuild. Sometimes the greatest protection comes from someone who has already survived their own heartbreak. My phone buzzed on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. First, I ignored it. Unknown numbers had already become part of my life. But something made me look. The message contained a photo. My stomach dropped. It was Nakia, walking out of her school building, her backpack on, holding her teacher's hand. The picture was taken that very day. I recognized the pink hair clip she had worn that morning. Below the photo, a single line of text. "You think he can protect you forever?" My hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. No, this can't be happening. For a moment, the world felt silent. My ears rang. My chest tightened so suddenly I could barely breathe. How did they get this? I called young Chul immediately. He answered on the first ring. "Adrian." His voice was calm, but focused. "What happened?" "They sent me a photo of Nakia outside her school," I said, my voice breaking. "They're watching her." There was a brief pause. Then his tone changed, not louder, but sharper. "Forward me the message. Right now." My fingers trembled as I sent it. "Stay where you are," he continued. "Do not leave your office. I am sending someone immediately." "What about Nakia?" I asked. "She will not be alone," he said firmly. "I promise you." The call ended. Within 20 minutes, a man in a dark suit arrived at my workplace. He spoke politely but briefly, escorting me to my car and following me directly to the school. When I arrived, I saw them. 2 additional security personnel positioned near the entrance and playground. Calm, alert, watching. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't dramatic. It was controlled. I rushed inside. Nakia was sitting at her desk, coloring peacefully, unaware of the danger that had just passed over her life. "Mommy!" She smiled when she saw me. "Why are you here early?" I knelt down and hugged her tightly. "She's safe. She's safe. She's safe." That evening, young Chul came to my apartment. His expression was serious when he entered. "DeAndre has been making calls from prison," he said, "attempting to intimidate through outside contacts." My heart sank. "Can they do something?" I asked. "The police will investigate," he replied. "But I will not wait for investigations." His voice was steady, not angry, not emotional, just certain. "I have increased security around your daughter's school. Her routes are monitored. Any further attempts will have immediate consequences." There was something in the way he spoke, not as a threat, as a guarantee. He looked at me then, softer. "No one gets close to your daughter without passing through me." For the first time, I realized this wasn't just protection. It was commitment. The threat had crossed the line, and he had responded without hesitation. When someone tries to harm what you love, real protection moves faster than fear. The courthouse felt colder than I expected. The walls were tall, the air heavy, and every sound echoed across the room. He said, the front, hands pressed together in my lap, trying to steady my breathing. Behind me, I knew young Chul was there, calm, silent, present. That knowledge alone gave me strength. When the judge entered, everyone stood. The case was called. DeAndre sat across the room, looking thinner, angrier, but no longer confident. His eyes kept shifting around the courtroom, as if searching for control that wasn't there anymore. Then it was my turn. I walked to the front, my legs shaking but moving forward anyway. For a second, I remembered them all. The pressure on my throat, my daughter's crying voice. I will not let fear silence me again. The prosecutor nodded gently, signaling me to begin. I took a slow breath and started reading my victim impact statement. I described what it felt like to be strangled in public. The helplessness, the panic, the sound of my daughter begging for my life. I spoke about the nightmares she still had, the way she flinched at sudden noises, the therapy sessions, the fear that followed us everywhere. My voice trembled, but I did not stop. Was I going to let him define the rest of our lives? No. As I spoke, I felt the room listening, not judging, listening. When I finished, there was silence. Then I returned to my seat. Young Chul placed his hand lightly on my shoulder. Not dramatic, not possessive, just steady support. I didn't turn around, but I felt him there like solid ground beneath my feet. Then the prosecutor presented the evidence. The mall footage played on the screen. My throat being grabbed. Nakia on her knees. The chaos. The witnesses. The medical report showing the bruises around my neck. The judge reviewed everything carefully. When DeAndre looked up, his eyes finally met young Chul's. That was the moment everything changed. The anger in DeAndre's face disappeared. Fear replaced it. Real fear. The kind that understands consequences. The judge removed his glasses and spoke clearly. Mr. Williams, you violated a restraining order, committed assault in public, endangered a minor, and demonstrated repeated disregard for court authority. The room stayed silent. I am sentencing you to 8 years in state prison. Upon release, a permanent restraining order will remain in effect. 8 years. The words felt like air returning to my lungs. As officers approached to take him away, DeAndre turned one last time. Not toward me, toward the man sitting behind me, young Chul. And for the first time, DeAndre didn't look angry. He looked defeated. Outside the courthouse, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not from pain, from relief, because justice had spoken, and this time it did not hesitate. It's over. And as I stood there in the sunlight, I understood something deeply. Protection is powerful, but accountability is what truly ends the threat. When truth stands in court, fear loses its final battle. The rooftop restaurant was quiet. No other guests. No distractions. Just city lights stretching across the horizon like a field of stars. The air felt softer up here, calmer, as if the world below could not reach us. Young Chul had arranged everything. Candles on the table. Gentle music playing in the background. A private space that felt intentional, not accidental. We had just finished dinner when he set his glass down slowly. I need to tell you something, he said. His voice was steady, but different. Less controlled. More honest. I looked at him carefully. Okay. He took a breath. I have been trying to keep distance, he began. Trying not to move too quickly. Trying not to let my feelings interfere with your healing. My heart began to beat faster. Feelings. But I cannot continue pretending, he continued. I have feelings for you, Adrian. The words settled between us. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just real. My hands tightened slightly around my napkin. This is not something I expected to hear. He leaned forward slightly. When I saw you in the mall, he said, you were fighting to survive while others watched, and something inside me changed. I decided that if I ever had the ability to protect someone again, I would not hesitate. His eyes met mine. But you need to understand what choosing me means. His tone became serious. My world is not simple. It involves power, influence, and people who operate in shadows. There are risks that come with being close to me. Some people may try to use you to reach me. A small silence followed. He wasn't asking lightly. He wasn't promising casually. He was offering truth. Do you understand? He asked gently. For a moment, I thought about everything. The threats, the courtroom, the fear I had lived with for years. But then I thought about how I felt when he stood beside me. Safe. Not controlled. Not trapped. Safe. For the first time, I feel like I can breathe. I understand, I said quietly. He studied my face, searching for hesitation. I don't want you choosing me out of gratitude, he added, or fear. I want you to choose me knowing everything. Everything. That word carried weight. I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. I am not choosing you because you saved me, I said. I am choosing you because you make me feel strong again. His expression shifted. Something soft, almost vulnerable. You are not afraid? He asked. Of your world, I replied.
No.
A small pause. Are you sure? I nodded. Yes. He stood slowly, came around the table and helped me to my feet. The city lights reflected in his eyes as he looked at me. I will protect you, he said. Not just today. Not temporarily. If you choose this, it is permanent for me. My heart was steady now. I choose you, I whispered. He pulled me into his arms. Not rushed, not uncertain, but with quiet intensity. Promise made through action, not words. In that moment, fear no longer defined my decisions. I had survived danger. Now I was choosing love. Real commitment begins when both people understand the risks and still choose each other anyway. Young Chul didn't tell me where we were going. The drive was quiet, not tense, just calm. Nakia was in the back seat, humming softly, holding the small stuffed animal he had given her earlier. I kept glancing at him, trying to read his expression. When the car finally stopped, I looked out the window. A beautiful townhouse stood in front of us. Warm lights glowed from the windows. The neighborhood was peaceful, lined with trees and clean sidewalks. It didn't look temporary. It looked like home. Whose house is this? I asked softly. He turned to me. Yours, he said. I blinked. What? He stepped out of the car and opened the door for us. Nakia ran ahead up the walkway, excited by the front yard and porch light. I followed slowly, my heart beating faster with every step. Inside, everything felt carefully chosen. The living room was fully furnished. Comfortable sofas, soft rugs, large windows that let in natural light. The kitchen was modern, spacious, and bright. It didn't feel empty, felt lived in. By Chul. My voice trembled. This is too much. He shook his head gently. It is not enough. We walked upstairs. The first bedroom was simple and elegant, designed with calm colors, a large bed, and a reading chair near the window. This is yours, he said that my breath caught. The second room made me stop completely. It was decorated for Nakia, her favorite colors, books already placed on shelves, a small desk for homework, soft bedding, a space created just for her. How did you know? I asked. I paid attention, he replied. My eyes filled with tears. He didn't guess. He listened. Then he led me to the third room. It was an office, a desk, computer, organized files, and on top of the desk a folder. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was an acceptance letter to a dental hygienist certification program, along with proof that the full tuition had already been paid. I looked up at him in disbelief. You did this? Yes. My voice broke. Why? He stepped closer, his expression serious but gentle. Because you told me you wanted to return to school. Because you deserve stability. Because Nakia deserves a future that is not built on fear. Tears streamed down my face. No one had ever invested in my future like this. Not emotionally. Not financially. Not without conditions. Is this real? I whispered. He nodded. This house is yours whenever you are ready. You do not have to decide today. But it will always be here. I walked back into the main room and looked around again. This wasn't just protection. It was planning. It was security. It was hope made physical. Nakia ran down the stairs laughing, exploring her new room with excitement. Watching her happiness made something inside me finally settle. For the first time, I am not surviving. I am building. I turned to young Chul. You didn't just save us, I said quietly. You gave us a life. He looked at me with steady eyes. I want you both to feel safe here, he replied. And standing in that house, I understood something deeply. This wasn't about luxury. It was about stability. And stability is the foundation of peace. The right kind of love doesn't just protect you. It builds a future where fear no longer lives. Months passed quietly. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty, but the kind that feels safe. Our townhouse slowly turned into a home. Nakia's room was filled with drawings taped to the walls. Her laughter echoed through the hallways. She slept peacefully now, no longer waking up from nightmares every night. Therapy helped her heal, but so did stability, and knowing she was protected. I returned to school. Every day I studied in the office young Chul had prepared for me. Books open, notes organized, tuition already paid. I felt something I hadn't felt in years, purpose beyond survival. And young Chul became part of our lives in a natural way. He came for dinner several times a week. He attended Nakia's school events without drawing attention. He helped her with homework, teaching her patience and confidence. He spoke to her with respect, never overstepping, never replacing, only supporting. One evening, after dinner, Nakia ran off to play in the backyard. Young Chul and I remained inside, standing near the living room window watching her. She is happy, he said softly. She is, I replied. He turned toward me slowly. And you? The question was simple, but it carried meaning. I smiled. I'm better than I've been in a long time. I finally feel like my life belongs to me again. He stepped closer, his expression calm but serious. I want to give you something, he said. From his pocket, he removed a small velvet box. My heart began to beat faster. He opened it. Inside was a delicate promise ring, simple, elegant, meaningful. Not extravagant, not flashy, intentional. I am not asking you to rush, he said gently. I am not asking you to change your life overnight, but I want you to know my intentions. He took my hand carefully. You and Nakia are my family now, and I protect my family always. My eyes filled with tears. This ring represents commitment, he continued. Not temporary, not conditional.
Permanent protection.
I looked down at the ring, then back at him. Are you sure? I asked softly. He nodded without hesitation. I have never been more certain of anything. The memory of the mall flashed in my mind. The fear, the choking, the helplessness. Then I looked around at our home, at Nakia laughing outside, at the stability surrounding us. For the first time, my future didn't feel fragile. It felt supported. I extended my hand. Yes, I whispered. He slid the ring onto my finger gently. Fit perfectly. Not just physically, but emotionally. He lifted my hand and kissed it lightly. This is not the end, he said quietly. It is the beginning. Outside, Nakia's laughter floated through the window, bright and carefree. I realized something powerful in that moment. I had once been a woman fighting to survive. Now I was a woman building a life. And standing beside me was someone who chose to stay, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. A real forever is not promised with words alone. It is proven through consistent protection and steady love.